Chapter 1. The Girl Who Had Everything. Alina Harris had everything people dream about: money, fame, beauty, comfort. Her life looked perfect from the outside. Everyone in Los Angeles knew her name. Her father owned a big company. Her mother was known for her kindness. People called Alina lucky, but Alina never felt lucky inside. She often sat alone in her room and whispered to herself, "Why do I feel empty when I have everything?" She had many friends, but none felt real. They laughed with her at parties, but forgot her when she was quiet. Many boys followed her, some for her beauty, others for her money. But she wanted something else. She wanted love that felt pure, someone who would hold her hand even if she lost everything. One evening, she went to a small charity event with her mother. There she met a man named Justin Cole. He was 28, simple and polite. He wore no expensive clothes, but his eyes were kind. When he smiled, Alina felt something soft move inside her heart. He worked part-time in a cafe and helped children from poor families. Alina watched him from far and thought, "He is different." After the event, she went to him and said, "You work very hard." Justin smiled. "Hard work keeps life honest," he said. Alina laughed softly. It was the first time someone spoke to her like a normal girl, not like a rich star. That moment stayed in her heart all night. The next week she visited his cafe. He was shocked to see her. He said, "People like you don't come here." She smiled. "I came to see a good man," she said quietly. Justin turned red and didn't know what to say. From that day, their meetings started. They met in simple places. No expensive dinners, no luxury. Sometimes they just walked and talked. Justin told her stories about his life, how he lost his father young, how his mother worked as a nurse. Alina listened carefully and said, "You are strong." He smiled and said, "You are kind." She felt happy in a way she had never felt before. Days turned into weeks. Alina started caring for him deeply. She sent him coffee when he worked late. She called him every night before sleeping. She didn't care about people talking. Her friends laughed and said, "Why are you with a poor boy?" She only smiled and said, "Because he makes my heart feel safe." One day Justin said, "Alina, I don't understand why you like me. You are rich. I am nothing." She looked into his eyes and said, "You are everything that money cannot buy." Those words made Justin silent. For a moment, he believed in love again. Alina's parents found out about him. Her father said, "He wants your money." Alina said calmly, "No, he wants my heart." Her mother tried to make her understand, but she was firm. "I will choose love, not luxury," she said. Their bond grew stronger. Justin started trusting her. But deep inside, he sometimes felt small next to her world. When he saw her expensive car or fancy phone, he wondered, "Can I ever fit in her life?" Yet Alina never made him feel less. She said, "If you are beside me, I have everything." One night, they sat near the window and talked for hours. She told him her childhood stories, how she always wanted to be loved for her heart. Justin held her hand and said, "You already are." She smiled, and for the first time in her life, she felt peace. Slowly, Alina began helping him. She paid his rent when his landlord threatened to throw him out. She gifted him clothes on his birthday. Justin was shy at first, but then got used to her care. Alina didn't see it as help. For her, it was love. She thought love means giving everything. Her friends started warning her. One of them said, "He is using you." Alina got angry. "You don't know him," she said. That night, she called Justin and said, "Promise me you'll never leave me." Justin replied, "I will never leave you, Alina." She believed every word. But sometimes, when Justin looked at her photos online, he felt a strange distance. She looked perfect, and he felt ordinary. He didn't say it aloud, but something inside him feared losing control. Still, he smiled whenever she called, and she never saw his doubt. As weeks passed, Alina's world started revolving around him. Her happiness came from his messages. Her sadness came from his silence. She planned a small trip for them, but he refused, saying he was busy. She didn't mind. She said, "Next time." She loved him enough to wait. People began to talk more. Some said, "She will regret it." Others said, "This love won't last." But Alina didn't listen. She believed love could change everything. She looked in the mirror and whispered, "He loves me. That's all that matters." That night, she wrote a small note in her diary. She wrote, "If one day I lose everything but still have his love, I will be the richest girl in the world." At that moment, she didn't know life was preparing to test every word she wrote.
Belle, don't forget to subscribe channel Basic English Story and turn on notifications.
Cars anymore. What made her happy now was one good message from him. She started waiting for his texts, counting minutes when he was late. Love became her new world. Justin was kind and gentle. He always spoke softly, but sometimes his eyes showed worry. He said once, "I feel strange when I'm with you. You come from light, I come from shadows." Alina held his hand and said, "Then let me bring you into the light." Her words melted his fear. He smiled, but deep down he still felt small beside her rich life. One Sunday evening, Alina took him to her favorite restaurant. She ordered food for him, laughed, and told funny stories. Justin was quiet. She asked, "You don't like it?" He said, "It's not about food. I just don't fit in your world." She looked into his eyes and said, "Then I'll build a world where you belong." That night, when she dropped him home, Justin saw her expensive car shining under the light. He said softly, "Your car costs more than everything I own." Alina smiled and said, "Money can't buy love." He replied, "Maybe not. But money decides who stays and who leaves." Those words hurt her heart. She went home and cried silently. The next day she called him and said, "Justin, please don't talk like that again. I don't see money when I see you. I see the man who made me believe in love." Justin stayed quiet for a long time. Then he whispered, "You really love me that much?" She said, "More than you can ever understand." Her love started showing in everything she did. She began sending him lunch when he was tired. She helped him pay his bills when his card stopped working. She told no one about it. She just wanted to make his life easier. One day, she saw his shoes torn from the sides. She quietly ordered a new pair and wrote a small note, "For my favorite person." When Justin opened the box, he smiled for the first time that week. But along with that smile came guilt. He thought, I am giving her nothing, but she gives me everything. Still, he accepted the gift. Slowly, comfort started feeling normal. Alina's parents noticed her change. Her father said, "You are spending too much on him." She replied softly, "It's not spending, it's sharing." Her mother tried to explain, "You cannot fix someone's life with love." Alina looked at her and said, "But I can make his life beautiful with love." Her parents stayed silent but worried. They didn't want her to get hurt. They had seen how money made people fake. But Alina's faith was stronger than any warning. She believed Justin's love was real. She believed he would never leave her. One night, Justin called her. His voice was low. He said, "I can't pay my rent this month." Without thinking, she said, "I'll help you." He said, "No, you've done enough." She insisted, "Justin, when you love someone, helping them is not a duty. It's joy." He agreed, but as he took her money, a strange silence fell between them. Something invisible started changing inside him. Days turned into weeks. Justin's life became easier. He stopped worrying about small things, but he also stopped saying, "Thank you." Alina didn't notice it. She was lost in love. She was planning his birthday, writing little notes, dreaming of a future together. She told her best friend, "I'll marry him one day." Her friend looked worried. "You're sure he loves you like you do?" Alina smiled. Love doesn't need balance. It needs trust. Justin sometimes stayed distant. When she asked why, he said, "I'm just tired." She didn't question him. She said, "Rest, my love." Every time he looked into her eyes, he saw truth. But the more she trusted him, the more he doubted himself. He thought, maybe I'm with her only because she gives me everything. He didn't want to think that, but he couldn't escape it. One evening, they sat together. Alina looked at him and said, "You look sad." He sighed. "I just feel lost sometimes." She said softly, "Then let me be your home." Those words touched him deeply, but he still couldn't say what was inside his heart, that his pride was slowly breaking. She didn't notice his silence growing heavier. She thought love was enough. She didn't see that Justin was beginning to change from inside. The poor man who once smiled with honesty was now learning to enjoy comfort. And once comfort enters love, love becomes weaker. Still, Alina kept believing. She said to her diary, "He may be poor in things, but he is rich in heart." She couldn't see that life was writing a different plan for her. That night, she called Justin and said softly, "Promise me one thing." He asked, "What?" She said, "That you'll never change no matter what happens." Justin stayed silent for a few seconds. Then he said, "I promise." Alina smiled and whispered, "That's all I need." She slept peacefully that night, not knowing that her biggest test was waiting just ahead. Chapter 3: The Night That Changed Everything. The days after Justin's promise were peaceful for Alina. She believed his love was true. She felt lucky to have him. She often said to herself, "He is the reason I smile." She didn't know how close her life was to breaking forever. That Friday night started like any other day. Alina had to attend a small party for a friend's birthday. She called Justin. "Will you come with me?" she asked. He said, "I can't. I have extra work." She said softly, "It's okay. I'll miss you." He smiled through the phone and said, "Drive safe." Alina went alone. She didn't stay long. She was tired and wanted to go home early. On her way back, her phone rang. It was Justin again. She smiled when she saw his name. He said, "I love you." She said, "I love you too." Those were their last calm words before everything went dark. A truck came from the wrong side. The sound of brakes filled the road. Everything stopped. Her phone fell. People screamed. Her car was destroyed. Alina's body was hurt badly. Hours later, she was in the hospital. Her parents cried outside the room. Justin ran there as soon as he heard. He looked at her through the glass window and felt his heart freeze. Machines were attached to her. She wasn't moving. Doctors said, "She is in coma." Justin stayed there all night. He held her hand and whispered, "Please wake up, Alina. I can't live without you." He prayed. He cried. He didn't eat for days. Every morning he came. Every night he left. The nurses felt pity. 7 days passed, like 7 years. Then one morning, Alina opened her eyes slowly. When Justin saw her eyes move, he cried loudly, "Thank God! You're back." She looked at him weakly and said, "You didn't leave me?" He held her hand and said, "Never." She smiled, and tears rolled down her cheeks. But the truth was hard. Doctors said her face was deeply injured. She had to go through surgeries. Weeks passed. Justin stayed around but slowly started to act different. He was kind, but his eyes looked distant. When she asked, "What happened?" he said, "Nothing. I'm just tired." 3 months later, Alina finally returned home. She stood before the mirror for the first time since the accident. Her hands shook. When she saw her reflection, she stopped breathing for a moment. Scars covered her face. She touched them and started crying. "This is not me," she said again and again. Justin came that evening with flowers. She looked at him and said, "Do I still look like Alina?" He said softly, "You're still my Alina." She tried to smile, but deep down, she felt he was lying. She could see the fear in his eyes. He stayed for dinner, but the silence between them felt heavy. She said, "Will you still take me out like before?" He looked down and said, "Maybe after some time." She looked at him and whispered, "You are ashamed of me, right?" He said quickly, "No! I just want you to rest." The next week, she asked him to go for a walk. He said he was busy. She waited the next day. Again, he didn't come. Slowly, his messages became short. Sometimes, He didn't reply at all. Alina felt pain that words couldn't explain. One evening, she went out wearing a scarf. She wanted to surprise him at his cafe. She saw him talking with his friends. They laughed. One of them said something, and Justin laughed too. But when he saw Alina near the door, his smile faded. His friends turned and looked at her scars. She saw their faces change. One boy whispered, "That's his girlfriend?" Justin said nothing. Alina turned away and walked out. Her heart felt like breaking into pieces. That night she called him. Her voice was weak. She said, "Justin, are you tired of me?" He replied, "You are thinking too much." She said softly, "No, I can feel it." He stayed silent. She cried quietly on the phone and said, "I wish I had died that night." He shouted, "Don't say that," she said. "Then love me like before." He couldn't answer. The call ended with silence. After that, things started to fall apart. Justin visited her less. He said work was keeping him busy. Alina knew the truth but didn't want to face it. She tried to look strong, but every time she saw her reflection, she felt unwanted. One night she looked at her old pictures. She remembered his words, "You are my whole world." She whispered, "Was that love or just a dream?" She hugged her pillow and cried till morning. Her mother tried to comfort her, but Alina said, "He will come back. He loves me." Her mother stayed quiet, afraid to break her hope. But life was already preparing the next storm, the moment when Alina would find out that love can disappear even faster than beauty.
Belle, don't forget to subscribe channel Basic English Story and turn on notifications.
Chapter 4. Love started to fade. Weeks passed after the accident, but Alina's heart was still heavy. She tried to smile when Justin came, but deep down she felt something had changed. The boy who once waited hours to see her now looked at his phone more than her eyes. Sometimes she caught him staring at her face. The way his eyes moved made her feel small. He tried to hide it, but she could see the distance growing. One evening she asked softly, "Justin, do you still find me beautiful?" He looked away and said, "Why do you ask such things?" She replied, "Because your eyes tell me what your mouth doesn't." He stood up and said, "You think too much, Alina." She said quietly, "I think because I feel." But he didn't listen. He left early that night. When the door closed, she sat there alone, holding the same flowers he once brought with love. They were dry now, just like his care. The next few days were worse. Justin stopped calling. When she called, he said, "I'm busy." Sometimes he didn't answer at all. Alina looked at her phone every few minutes, hoping for one message, one, "I miss you." But it never came. Her heart kept waiting for something that wasn't coming back. Her mother said gently, "He's changing, my dear." Alina said, "No, he's just tired." Her mother sighed. Love doesn't get tired. People do. But Alina still believed in him. She thought maybe time would bring him back. One day she decided to meet him by surprise. She wore her favorite dress and covered her scars with light makeup. When she reached his cafe, she saw him laughing with someone. A young woman sat close to him, touching his arm. Her name was Luna. She looked perfect, rich, stylish, confident. Alina froze. She stood far and watched them. Justin looked happy, the way he used to look with her. She felt her chest tighten. Her legs shook. She walked out quietly before anyone saw her. Tears blurred her vision. That night, she called Justin. He answered after the third ring. She said, "Who was that girl?" He replied coldly, "Just a friend." Her voice trembled. "You never looked that happy with me." He said sharply, "Don't start this again." She whispered, "You promised never to change." He stayed silent for a long time, then said, "Maybe we both need space." Those words hit her harder than her accident. She dropped the phone and fell on the floor. Her hands covered her face, but no tears came. She was too broken to cry. The next morning, she woke up with swollen eyes. She texted him, "I can't live without you." Hours passed. No reply. Late at night, she received a short message. "I'm sorry, Alina. I need time." She stared at those words till her eyes burned. Days turned into empty silence. Justin stopped visiting completely. People started talking. Some friends called her and said, "He's with Luna now." She didn't believe them at first, but one afternoon, when she opened social media, she saw a picture of Justin and Luna together. They looked perfect. His hand was around her shoulder, and his smile was bright. She dropped the phone and whispered, "So it's true." Her body felt cold. She sat by the window, hugging her knees like a lost child. She said to herself, "He didn't even say goodbye." That evening, she went to his apartment. When he opened the door, his face changed. He said, "What are you doing here?" She said, "I came to ask why." He sighed, "You deserve someone better." She said softly, "Better or prettier?" He looked down and said nothing. Her eyes filled with tears. "When I had beauty, you said you loved my soul. Now when beauty is gone, your love is gone too." He whispered, "It's not like that." She said, "Then what is it like?" He stayed quiet. She turned away and said, "You taught me that promises can die too." When she reached home, her grandmother was waiting. Alina fell into her arms and cried like a child. "He left me, Nani," she said. The old woman held her tightly and said, "Then let him go. What is meant for you will never walk away." But Alina couldn't stop her pain. She stopped eating. She stayed in her room for days. Every night she asked herself the same question. Why did he stop loving me? There was no answer, only silence. One evening, she looked at the mirror again. "He wanted beauty, not me," she whispered. Then she took off the scarf from her face and said, "If scars can scare someone away, they were never in love." She broke down after saying it. Justin was now always with Luna. They went out, laughed, and shared photos. He didn't even check on Alina anymore. But sometimes when he was alone, her face still came to his mind, not the scarred one, but the one who smiled without pride. He shook his head every time and said to himself, "It's better this way." But his heart never felt peace again. Alina's world had fallen apart, but she didn't know this fall would soon lead her to something greater. a strength she never knew she had. Chapter 5. Broken heart days passed, but time stopped for Alina. Every morning felt the same, silent, heavy, and cold. Her heart wanted to believe Justin would return, but her mind whispered that he was gone. She kept his messages, read them again and again, hoping they would still mean something. Each word felt like a memory that hurt more than it healed. Her mother tried to comfort her, but she said nothing. Her father stayed quiet too. He had warned her once, but now felt only pity. The house that once echoed with laughter now carried the sound of her crying. Sometimes at night she whispered, "Justin, you said forever." One afternoon she saw another picture online, Justin and Luna smiling together. He looked happy, free, untouched by guilt. Alina felt her chest tighten. She threw the phone away and screamed, "Why, Justin? Why did you do this to me?" She fell on the floor and cried until she could not breathe. Her grandmother rushed to her and held her in her arms. "My child," she said gently, "the ones who leave are not your loss. They lose you." Alina sobbed. "He was my whole life." Her grandmother wiped her tears and said, "Then make a new one. You still have yourself." But Alina couldn't believe that. She looked at her hands and said, "Everything I touch turns into pain." Days turned into nights, nights into empty silence. She stopped eating. She stopped talking. She deleted her social media, threw away photos, but memories still lived inside her head. Each memory felt alive, like a wound that refused to close. She asked herself every day, was my love not enough? One evening she walked to her grandmother's room and said softly, "Nani, how did you survive heartbreak?" The old woman smiled sadly. "By crying first, then by standing up again." Alina said, "But I feel weak." Her grandmother held her hand and said, "Then cry until you have no tears left. After that, strength will come." That night Alina opened her diary. She wrote slowly, "He broke me, but I'm still breathing." She read it again and felt a strange calmness. Maybe this was the start of healing. The next day she decided to step outside. Her legs felt heavy, but she walked anyway. Every face she saw reminded her of how life goes on even when your heart doesn't want to. She thought, maybe pain doesn't stop life, it only slows it down. But the real test came when she met one of her old friends at a store. The friend said softly, "You heard? Justin and Luna are moving in together." For a moment, Alina couldn't speak. She nodded and smiled weakly, pretending it didn't hurt. But when she returned home, she collapsed on her bed and whispered, "He didn't just leave me. He replaced me." Her grandmother sat beside her again that night. She said, "You think this is the end, but it's the beginning. Heartbreak teaches you who you are." Alina looked up with wet eyes and said, "Then I must learn a lot." The old woman smiled. "Yes, you will. But promise me one thing. Don't let this pain destroy your heart. Let it clean it." Those words stayed in Alina's mind. She stopped asking why Justin left. she started asking what she could do next. She began reading again, listening to music that once made her smile. Some days she cried again, but now her tears felt lighter. One night she looked at the sky through her window and said, "Justin, I forgive you, but I will never forget what pain taught me." Her voice was steady, not weak anymore. She didn't know it yet, but life was already preparing something new. A chance to rise again, a reason to smile, not because of someone else, but because of herself. Like, subscribe, and share. Read this story and many more on our website bookishenglish.com. Link in the description. Chapter 6. The Lesson of Life. Alina was slowly learning to live with her pain. Some days she woke up crying, some days she stayed quiet. Her heart still missed Justin, but her tears were getting weaker. She didn't want revenge. She just wanted peace. She looked in the mirror one morning and said softly, "I want to heal." Her grandmother saw her sitting near the window and said, "Come here, my child." Alina sat beside her. The old woman smiled and said, "I see strength in your eyes." Alina asked, "Strength? I feel empty." Her grandmother replied, "That emptiness is where strength begins." That evening, Alina asked, "Nani, did you ever love someone who broke you?" The old woman looked far away, remembering her past. "Yes," she said quietly. "I loved a man who promised forever, but left when I had nothing. I cried for months, but later, when I became strong and successful, he came back. That's how life works, my dear. People respect you when you no longer need them." Alina listened carefully. Every word touched her heart. She asked, "So what should I do now?" Her grandmother said, "Don't run from pain. Fix yourself. Learn something. Do something new. The world does not stop for one broken heart." That night, Alina couldn't sleep. She kept hearing her grandmother's words. She opened her laptop and searched for doctors who could fix her scars. The thought scared her, but she also felt hope. She said to herself, "Maybe I can start again." The next week, she met a doctor. He looked at her medical reports and said gently, "We can help you, but there is a risk." Alina asked, "What kind of risk?" The doctor said, "Your face might not heal the same. It could get worse." She stayed silent for a moment and then said firmly, "I'll take that chance." Her grandmother held her hand before she left for the surgery. "Remember," she said softly, "this is not about beauty. This is about courage." Alina smiled and said, "I know, Nani, but I want to see myself again, not because I need others to love me, but because I want to love myself." When the day came, she flew to South Korea for treatment. She stayed alone in a small room. Nights were painful. The bandages hurt. The silence was heavy. Yet she didn't cry this time. She whispered, "I've already faced worse." Every morning she looked at herself in the mirror, even when it scared her. She said, "You are strong, Alina. You are still you." Each word became a part of her healing. The pain of surgery felt less than the pain of betrayal. Weeks passed. Slowly, her wounds began to close. The doctor smiled and said, "You are recovering beautifully." Alina thanked him with tears. She whispered, "I'm not just healing my face. I'm healing my heart." When she looked in the mirror after the final dressing, she gasped softly. Her reflection was new, stronger, calmer, and even more beautiful, but this time, she didn't smile because of beauty. She smiled because she had survived. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. Strength begins where pain ends. Alina finally understood what it meant. She stood near the window that evening, touched her scars, and said, "Thank you, life. You broke me, but you also rebuilt me."
Belle, don't forget to subscribe channel Basic English Story and turn on notifications.
Chapter 7. The Rise. Again, months passed, and Alina was no longer the same woman who once cried every night. She was stronger now, calm and full of silent power. When she came back to Los Angeles, her grandmother couldn't stop crying. "You look beautiful, my child," she said. Alina smiled gently. "I feel beautiful this time, Nani." From inside, her scars were gone. But more than that, her pain had turned into wisdom. She looked at herself in the mirror and said, "You don't need anyone to see your worth." Those words felt like freedom. She decided to start something new, something that could give others hope. She opened her own beauty company for women who had faced accidents like hers. She named it Rise Again. Her goal was not to sell products, but to help women feel confident again. People were inspired by her story. Newspapers called her the woman who came back stronger. When her photo was printed in a popular magazine, Justin saw it. He froze for a moment. His heart started beating fast. He whispered, "Alina." Luna looked at him and asked, "What happened?" He quickly turned the page and said, "Nothing." But that night, he couldn't sleep. The picture of Alina's smile stayed in his mind. Days later, Justin went to the opening event of her company without telling anyone. He stood far and watched her talk on stage. Her voice was soft but powerful. She said, "When people break you, rebuild yourself so well that they can never recognize the old you." The crowd clapped loudly. Justin's eyes filled with regret. He realized what he had lost. After the event, he gathered courage and went to meet her. She was surprised to see him. "Justin," she said quietly. He looked down and said, "You look perfect." She replied calmly, "I was never imperfect. You just couldn't see my worth." He tried to smile, but couldn't. "Alina, I was stupid. I lost you for the wrong reasons. Please forgive me." She looked at him for a long moment and said softly, "Forgiving you was easy. Forgetting you was hard. But now, even the pain is gone." He said, "Can we start again?" She smiled sadly and said, "No, Justin. You ended the story long ago. I just learned to live after the last page." He lowered his head, unable to speak. Before leaving, she said one last thing that cut through his heart. "You left when I was broken. Now I am healed, and you are the one in pieces." He watched her walk away, graceful and peaceful. From that day, Alina's life moved forward. She helped many women, gave speeches, and became a voice of hope. Justin, on the other hand, kept remembering her words. Luna left him soon after. He was alone again, with nothing but memories. Alina never hated him. She simply outgrew the pain. She said one night to her grandmother, "I finally understand what self-love means." Her grandmother smiled and said, "You have learned the real lesson of life." Alina held her grandmother's hand and whispered, "This is my new beginning." Chapter 8. The final goodbye weeks passed after Justin's visit, but Alina didn't think about him again. She had closed that chapter in her heart. Her days were now filled with purpose, not pain. She helped women rebuild their confidence, shared her story with courage, and smiled without fear. She no longer looked for love in others. She found it within herself. One evening, while she was finishing a meeting, she received a letter. It was from Justin. The handwriting was shaky. She hesitated for a moment, then opened it. The letter said, "Alina, I know you don't need to read this, but I need to say it. I lost the only person who truly loved me. I thought beauty mattered. I was wrong. You were my peace, and I broke it. Now my life is empty. I just hope you are happy. You deserve everything good in this world." A tear fell on the paper, but Alina didn't cry more. She folded the letter and whispered, "He finally learned." Her grandmother saw her and asked, "You're not sad?" Alina smiled softly. "No, Nani. I just feel sorry for him." That night, she sat near her window, remembering everything. The love, the betrayal, the pain, the healing. It all felt like another lifetime. She whispered to herself, "I loved him once, but I love my peace more." A few weeks later, she saw Justin again at a charity event. He looked tired, lost, and older. When their eyes met, he walked toward her slowly. "Alina," he said softly, "I wanted to say thank you for teaching me what love really means." She looked calm and replied, "And I want to thank you too, for teaching me what self-respect means." Justin's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve forgiveness," he said. Alina looked at him kindly and replied, "Forgiveness is not for you, Justin. It's for me." He nodded and whispered, "You've changed." She smiled. "No, I just found myself." They stood silent for a while. Then she said gently, "This is our final goodbye." He understood. Without another word, he walked away. She watched him go, not with hate, but with peace in her heart. Later that night, she sat beside her grandmother. "Do you ever think I'll fall in love again?" she asked softly. Her grandmother smiled and said, "Maybe. But this time, it will be a love that doesn't hurt." Alina nodded and said, "Yes, because now I'll never forget my own worth." Months passed. Her company grew. She gave interviews, helped thousands of women, and became an inspiration to many. People looked at her and said, "She's the woman who turned pain into power." Alina sometimes thought of Justin, not with sadness, but with gratitude. He was a lesson she needed to learn, a part of her journey that made her who she was. One evening, she stood on stage to give a speech. Her voice was calm but full of strength. She said, "Beauty fades, money fades, but a strong heart never fades. Love yourself first, because no one can take that from you." The crowd clapped for a long time. That night, Alina looked at the stars and whispered, "Thank you, life, for breaking me once and teaching me how to shine." She smiled, peaceful and proud. Her story had finally come full circle.
Whether you're starting your English journey or improving your skills, our stories will help you understand English naturally. Listen, read along, and enjoy learning every day. Glowing Star. Bell, don't forget to subscribe channel Basic English Story and turn on notifications.